So this is the biggest mistake I see people making all the time when trying to get a remote job. They're unemployed. They're incredibly stressed. They're desperate. They're getting to a point where they're desperate. And they think that getting a remote job is going to fix everything. It's going to be the thing that's going to be the magic solution. Like, they got bills to pay. They're behind on rent. They're trying to figure out their life. And then they get on their laptop. They put together a cool looking resume. They click a few buttons. They start sending some applications, and they hope that their life changes. And I'm telling you right now, that's not going to happen. Like, the chances of you getting a good remote job, if you're under that kind of, if you're in that mental state, are basically zero. Unless you already have experience. If you have experience, you can piggyback off that experience and just get the job because of the experience, regardless of your mental state. But if you have no experience, which is most people's case, it was my case when I got my remote job, there's no chance you're gonna get a job. And it's not because you're not smart, it's not because you don't have potential. It's because you're operating from a state of mind, from a place that just doesn't allow you to acquire the necessary skill that you need to acquire to get the job. And this is something people forget all the time. Like, people forget that in order to get a good remote job, you need to have a valuable skill. It's not just applying to jobs randomly without knowing what you're doing. Like, you don't need to have experience. I didn't have any formal experience when I got my remote job. But I did dedicate myself to acquiring a skill that was valuable for that company. And that's how I was able to sell myself to that company, because I had a valuable skill. Now, in order to acquiring a valuable skill isn't easy. It takes time, it takes dedication, it takes work. And if you're under that state of mind, if you're desperate, if you have 1 or 2 months worth of savings, and you think that's gonna be enough for you to acquire a skill and go through a bunch of job applications, a bunch of interviews, a bunch of offers, and get a job, you're wrong. Not gonna happen. Remember, acquiring a skill takes time, takes dedication, takes work. It takes you being in an okay state of mind. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have 0 problems in your life. Everybody has problems. But you can't be completely desperate, because you're going to take shortcuts. You're not going to do what it takes. You're going to do what most people do, which is they search, remote jobs online, and they start applying with no skill whatever. They apply to like 20 different jobs, like literally 20 different skills, instead of focusing in on one thing, acquiring one skill, really getting good at it, and then starting to apply to jobs. Then when you have some leverage, starting to apply to jobs. But in order to get that leverage, in order to acquire that skill, you need to be in the right state of mind. You need to be in a state of mind that allows you to dedicate yourself to something, to becoming good at something for months. It doesn't take 30 days. I know that that's what people tell you on YouTube. Or you're gonna change your life in 30 days, you're gonna get a remote job in 30 days, you're gonna get a business at 10K a month in 30 days. Not gonna happen. It's just not gonna happen. This is the real world. That's not how the real world works. I've had multiple online businesses. I've had a good high-paying remote job of $7,000 a month as a starting salary, and none of it is easy. None of it is easy. All the skills that it requires for you to reach the level where you can get a really good remote job are not easy. They're straightforward and they're simple. The process is simple and it's straightforward, like once you see it, but it doesn't mean it's easy to go through it. Because if it was easy, everybody would do it. Everyone wants to get a remote job. Everyone wants to be able to work from wherever they want. They want to be able to travel. But most people can't do that. Why? Because it's not easy. Because if it was easy, everybody would do it. You have to stop that thinking that a company is going to hire you just because you're hardworking or because you have motivation. A company hires you based on what you offer them. You have to offer something concrete. You have to offer a skill that makes them more money or that saves them money, that solves a problem. Like, you can double their return using Facebook ads. You can increase their sales by 300% using SEO. You can double the conversion rate of their landing page using your copywriting skills. You need something specific. And imagine trying to acquire one of these skills that I just mentioned, which are just a few, while you're under that immense pressure of having 2 months worth of living expenses. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. First of all, because it takes longer than that to acquire these skills if you wanna get a good job. And second of all, even if you did have longer, for as long as you're under that state of mind, your mind's gonna be all over the place. You're not gonna become good. And if you don't become good, you're not gonna get a job. So if your plan was to get good at something while you're unemployed and broke, you're stacking the odds against yourself. Now, don't take me wrong. I'm not saying don't have goals. If you have the goal of the long-term goal of getting a remote job and getting freedom and getting the lifestyle that you truly want, that's awesome. Like, I truly admire people that dare to think differently. But the first step to get there is not to go in and try to apply for a remote job right away with no skill. The first step is to stabilize yourself to a certain degree first, which means get a regular job first. Get a basic job, any job that allows you to pay your basic stuff. You know, it could be a barista, you could work at the grocery store, you could do deliveries, you could do Uber, do anything. Get yourself to the point where you're not desperate. Like, swallow your pride if you have to. This is what I would do if I was starting over. Swallow your pride, get some money coming in, stabilize yourself to a degree. Again, it doesn't mean you have to have money for everything you want. No, but just basic stuff. Take that pressure off. And then you're gonna be in a state of mind where you can dedicate yourself and learn a skill for the next few months and change your life ultimately in the short to long term. It's just about getting something that pays your rent, pays your bills, and gives your nervous system enough space and enough peace to sit down and actually dedicate yourself to something and be able to focus on something for an extended period of time. And ultimately becoming good at that something. So you get stable first, and then you start using your free time to acquire a valuable skill. It doesn't have to be the perfect skill, but just a skill that is valuable to the market. And what's a valuable skill to the market? Well, it's a skill that is easily tied to revenue and like how much money you can make a company. It's a skill that is easy for you to come in and differentiate yourself from all the other applicants. And it's a skill that has good income. It's a skill that you have some sort of interest for. Don't do something that you hate. Like, don't go into sales if you hate sales. Just do something, like, you have to have some sort of natural interest for it. It doesn't have to be your passion. Like, don't be, I know that's what people say online. It doesn't have to be your passion. Ultimately, if you do something that you have interest for, it will become your passion. It will be something become something you truly love as you develop skill and become good at it and start to change your life because of that skill. That's how passion works. You develop it over time. And another reason why you should have that natural interest for it a little bit is because it has to be something that you can see yourself dedicating yourself to for 6 to 12 months. And if it's something you hate, something you have no interest whatsoever for, you're not gonna go for even 2 months, let alone 6. So keep that in mind. Here's some examples of skills that follow all of these criteria that I just mentioned. First one, media buying, being an in-house media buyer. That's what I do. That's what I teach my students to do. It's not the only thing you can do. There's many other things. Like, for example, being an SEO manager, being a in-house copywriter, being an in-house marketing manager, being an in-house social media manager. Any of these jobs within digital marketing, there is a lot of saturation of shit quality professionals and agencies. And that's where the easiness to differentiate comes in. Because companies are so used to working with such low quality, shit quality professionals and agencies that when you come in and you're different from them, it's easy for you to differentiate yourself. This is like, out of all the criteria, to me, this is the most important. This is exactly how I got my job. I positioned myself as an alternative to these shitty agencies and professionals, and that's probably the main reason. I can never know for sure, but that's probably the main reason why I was able to get the job as an in-house media buyer. Just pick one and commit. Like, dedicate yourself. Learn, practice, repeat. Learn, practice, repeat. For at least a few months before you even consider applying for remote jobs. And if this is something that's sounding interesting to you, I have a full 6-month program where I walk you through step by step how to go from zero to landing a remote job as an in-house media buyer. Because again, that's the skill that I have. That's the skill that I can teach. If you want to learn one of the other skills, I'm sure there's other programs out there that can teach you that are good quality. But the one that I teach is about media buying. I think it's probably the best skill. Obviously, I'm biased, but I think it's one of the best skills you can learn right now because of the opportunity in the market. So if that sounds interesting to you, click the link in the description and check out the program. But anyway, something else that's, I would say, even more important. And when it comes to being in that state of mind of desperation, it's even more important. So yes, it affects your skill acquisition capability. It makes it nearly impossible to acquire the skill. But it's even worse. It affects you even worse in the job hunting stage when you're going in and applying and especially doing interviews. And why? Because interviewers, whether they're like professional HR people or not, they could just be the business owner interviewing you. But like, we're all human. And especially people that have interviewed a few people, which all business owners have, and obviously all HR people have, they can sense desperation. They can sense when you come into the interview and you need the job. And the odds of you landing the job, the odds of the interview going well and them thinking, I want this person, when you have that energy is like, it's not happening. Because a company doesn't want to hire someone that desperately needs the job. I know that we all want to think that. I know that we all want to think that companies want to help people that need a job. They don't. They don't care. They just care about your ability to solve their problems, your competency, your confidence in being able to solve problems. One of the most important things, if not the most important thing that I always tell my students about the job hunting stage is you want, like, if you're going to do anything in a job interview, do this. Make the interviewer believe that he needs you more than you need him. Make them believe that you're the prize. If you can do this, you can mess up a bunch of other stuff and you'll probably still be hired. If you think about it, it's just human nature. Like, we want to like get a deal, right? We want to get a deal. We want to get someone that everyone else wants. You have to walk into that interview with the vibe that you're just considering your options. Like, this is one of your options. Like, you're talking to the interviewer and you're making him believe that, hey, you're just one of my options. I have many other companies that are interested. I'm going to consider you as an option. And once they sense that, they will start selling themselves to you. And once they start selling themselves to you, it's game over. You're hired, if you want to, obviously. And it's also much easier for you to later negotiate offers, negotiate salaries, etc., etc. And obviously, it goes without saying, you can't transmit that idea unless you're a phenomenal actor. You can't get that idea across, get that vibe across if you're not feeling it yourself. If you don't have a job, if you have no money at all, if you have one month worth of savings and you don't know what's going to happen next month if you don't get this job, you're never going to be able to get that energy across. You have to come to the interview thinking to yourself, it's completely okay if I don't get the job. I don't care if I don't get the job. It would be a nice to have, but if I don't get it, I'm fine. I'll still be fine. And that will help you so much in landing the job, like so much. Even in terms of qualifications, like if 3 other guys or 3 other girls come into the interview and they're more qualified than you, but they don't do that work of being in the right state of mind and having the right frame, the right attitude, and they come across as a little desperate, or they talk about themselves and what they want instead of talking about the business owner and what he wants, you're gonna win, even if you're a little bit less qualified. But once again, in order to have in order to be in that state, you can't be desperate. You need to have some sort of a little bit of stability. Again, it doesn't have to be like you don't have to have all your problems solved, but have money coming in, have a job. Have a job so that you don't come into that job needing it. You come into that job as, this would be a nice to have, but I don't need it. The company needs to tell me why I should work for them, not the other way around. And I know I'm repeating myself, but it's because this is incredibly important. It's incredibly important. If you get this right, like you become, it's a hack, basically. If hacks really exist, this is one of them in what comes to getting a job. But obviously, it's not an easy hack because it's not easy to put yourself in that position. It's about doing what it takes. It's about being willing to do what most people are not willing to do. If most people are not willing to do deliveries or Uber to be in that state of mind and getting a remote job, you should do that. Because the only way to get results that most people can't get is to be willing to do what most people are not willing to do. Never forget that the remote job itself is not the miracle you're looking for. You are. The job itself is just a result of what you've built behind the scenes, of the person you've become and the skill you've acquired. And don't take me wrong, I get it. Like, it's easy to think how a remote job could be the thing that saves you. But that mindset will keep you stuck, because what saves you is you. What saves you is being stable. It's then being able to acquire a skill. It's practicing, it's getting the reps, it's becoming good. So if you're broke, don't feel bad about where you are, but just don't lie to yourself about what you have to do next. Get a basic income first, learn something valuable, and then go into the remote job market as a calm, confident individual, not as someone hoping to be rescued.